All right, guys, I want to explain to you what happened with a video of mine and why it was taken down last week on YouTube. The video title, They Ruined My Hometown, Don't Let Them Ruin Yours, Burlington, Vermont. And so no, it was not YouTube that took it down. A lot of you reached out to me saying, hey, YouTube is canceling you, they're removing your videos. Wasn't YouTube, it was me. There was a woman in the video for the first 40 minutes. I received a call from her after it went live and her requesting that I remove her part. And that was rough because there was a lot of information in there. There were a lot of good points. There's a lot I showed of what's going on in the city. But I have the decision of respecting her wants and removing her part of the video. So that's what happened. We put the video on private, which we can do, so you can't see it online. We cut those parts out, and then we put it live again. So it is live again now. It's just missing the whole front end. And like I said, a lot of great information in that front end. If you haven't seen the second part or the part that's online now, you can watch this first and then watch that. Or if you saw that and you want to know what was before, because there's some rough cuts in YouTube, unfortunately. We can't take it off YouTube and edit. We have to just like cut it inside YouTube and we can just do hard chops. So it's a little jumpy. And the reason why I want to do this video is because most places I go, for those that watch my content, you know I'm not the expert. I'm going into, say, with the Amish or East LA, with the Chicanos or on a native res or wherever. And I get in with the locals and we learn together through them. I ask the questions, I open them up on camera, and that's how we learn. We go on a journey together. Now this video is a bit different because I grew up in Vermont. I was born in Burlington. I grew up just south of it. I have a lot of great memories of the city. There's nothing like your roots. And even though I don't live there anymore, I know what it was like. And I can remember all the good times in that city. So it's interesting when you come back and you see such a fall. It's more jolting. It's more like, wow. And when you're in it every day, like anything, you don't notice perhaps the rapid changes, but when you're gone for a year, it's like not seeing a relative for a few years and oh wow, they changed so much. But if you're with them every day, you don't notice the changes. Like anything you're looking for, like there's a yellow Volkswagen. You put that in your mind and you're gonna start seeing yellow Volkswagens. So this video was about showing the problems of Burlington. I could go to other parts of the city and show, ducks swimming around a pond and put nice music to it and there are kids playing and you could be like, this is utopia. That wasn't the goal of this video. The goal is to show like the heart and the center of commerce, of urban life in Vermont is going through a hard downturn. I was told in the beginning of the video, it was the wrong time to be showing this story. And the reason being, UVM, University of Vermont, just came back in a session. And when all the parents are in town, the town gets cleaned up. Sort of like when Xi came to San Francisco, everything got cleaned up where Xi was gonna be. And it's sort of an interesting strategy. I don't know how true that is. Well, I did see it in San Francisco, so I'm not sure if that's the case in Burlington, but I was told. All right, so my big observations were going into the parking garage. Now the parking garage near Church Street, for those that don't know Burlington, Church Street's a long street, pedestrian street. All the shops are on it. Just a great, great vibe back in the day. It was amazing. Christmas shopping, the lights, kids laughing. It still has some of it, just not at the levels of before. So the main parking garage you go into is full with people doing drugs. You go in and on the right, I don't know what they're doing, meth, fentanyl, whatever it is. In the stairway, I was told a lot of prostitution happens there, a lot of drug use happens there, a lot of stolen goods get exchanged there. This is the parking garage my mother drove into when I was a child, and we had the bike on the roof of the car, and it ripped the whole thing off. So that's not a great memory with the parking garage, but you wouldn't worry about your kid. I was driving at 16, going to Burlington, parking in the parking garage. If I had 16-year-old kids or any kids of any age, I would not want them going to the main parking garage downtown. Watch out, ladies. There's a bit of a drug scene over there. If you stay to the left, I think you're fine.
People were fighting. when we came down.
Then I walked by, there are a couple churches a block over from there, people smoking meth, fentanyl, whatever else. It's an open air drug area now. You know, not technically, but it's not enforced. So if the law is not enforced, then it's a de facto open air drug usage place. And I'm not putting the cops under the bus on this one because, as you'll see in the other video, I went into the police station and they don't have the staff they need. They don't have the officers they need. So they're only dealing with, I think right now, like the worst emergencies. They've been beat down pretty hard. So it's just like, yeah, well, we'll just let all that drug usage happen. And then in one of the churches, there's actually rehab going on. And so those in rehab have to walk by those using drugs to go to the rehab. And wow, quitting any of these substances I don't think is easy, and then it being right in your face must it make it much more challenging. There's a safe injection site that's proposed. I don't know if it's happening for sure now. I have quite mixed feelings, mostly against those because from what I've seen in, say, Kensington or San Francisco, it attracts drug users. Now, I'm not totally opposed to it in the sense if there are the right services behind it, like you have the rehab and you have the job training on the way out and you have the carrot and stick approach, as in, you know, you might get things if you stay off the drugs, but you can't just go through a drug facility and then use on the streets right afterwards. If it's set up like that and the users are still on the church lawn, then it's completely ineffective and doesn't help anything out. So hopefully, if that goes through, it's done in a very logical and sound way. These super difficult problems, it's not like I have any easy answers, and nobody does. I mean, drug issue all over the country is really, really accelerated. I mean, I see it everywhere from the border, you know, all the way from the border states in the south, all the way north. But what's different is policies. When you have towns that have policies that allow the drug usage on the streets, the needles end up on the streets. If there's usage in the parks, then all that stuff's in the parks. And it has a cascading effect of now your kids can't play in the park, now you don't want to take your family to certain places. This is all a bit personal for me, not just because I'm from Vermont, but I lived in San Francisco, and I left San Francisco in 2021 because of quality life issues. That is smashed windows, break-ins, just vagrants all over the place, people passed out on the street on fentanyl, and all of that being accepted. It takes its toll over time. And like most citizens, most people want these people to have help. But when there are no rules in place, then you get it everywhere. And then the honest workers, taxpayers, productive people in society have to deal with it every day. And it turns into a mess. So there are places that allow this stuff and places that don't. And where they don't, you don't have to deal with it every day. Doesn't mean the problem's not there, but the people that are not using it on drugs don't have to live in it, which is a big upgrade. And if you go one level deeper, you know, I never cared about mayors or prosecutors or DAs. Who did? Really? I mean, like a few people really cared about that stuff. Only when your place of living gets so bad do you start like pulling up the hood and like, who's creating these policies? Who's allowing this? Who's managing this? Who's running the show? And when I looked at San Francisco, the DA there, Chesa Boudin, he was recalled. Super liberal San Francisco recalled him because he was so radical. It was more of that, you know, criminals are the victim ideology. So we're just dealing with quality of life issues, bad quality of life issues all over the city. San Francisco said, no more of this. This isn't working. He got booted. What's very interesting is Sarah George, the prosecutor for Chittenden County, so that being Burlington, is part of the same group, Fair and Just Prosecution. All right, so they have a different approach to what prosecution should be. And let's just call it, it's way more hands-off. So the results in places like San Francisco or Burlington, where the same style of prosecution is taking place, is things are getting exponentially worse, way worse, with crime in the city and just overall problems. And so here's how it works. weaken the DA. By doing so, you demoralize the police, because the police go out and just deal with the most heinous stuff in society, right? And if they get a criminal, goes through the system, the DA doesn't prosecute, that criminal's back on the street the day later, the police get demoralized over time. Like, what are we doing here? And so a lot of times felonies turn into misdemeanors. Misdemeanors aren't prosecuted. You also need some weak judges in the mix. So this is how you break a system down. If you have a super strong prosecutor and judges that are following the law, then the police department should be in a much better position. We all want excellent policing, right? Nobody likes bad cops or really bad anything. They are doing some of the most difficult work in society, that is for sure. Most of us would not want that job. You couldn't pay me enough to do that job. I can't imagine doing that job. So I have a lot of respect for good cops, and they're needed. And so there's an ideology with some people that, if the police just went away, then society would be safe. And a lot of these people have luxury beliefs. They don't have much kinetic experience with how the world works. Luxury beliefs usually come from people that grew up in nice environments like the countryside of Vermont, go to nice institutions of higher education like Smith College with under 3,000 students, but an endowment of over $2 billion, not million, billion, and come to a city like Burlington, Vermont, which up until recently, always had problems, but nothing like this. Now, kinetic reality is spending time in the depths of Karachi, Pakistan, or the slums of India, or even a hard-hitting hood in America in one of our inner cities. This sobers things up very quickly. And it's interesting, in a lot of inner city America, the vast majority of citizens want more policing. The criminals don't, but the vast majority of citizens do, because they want to go to work, send their kids to school, and live a safer life. And if you don't believe me, go to these places, ask the questions, talk to them, hear what they have to say. That's what I do in my work. I didn't know what East New York was like, or Compton, or any of the inner city areas of the country. I didn't spend time in these places growing up. Only curiosity and actually caring what they think and their opinions on things have brought me there. Unfortunately, a lot of our leaders don't have experience in the world. They haven't lived in India or Ukraine or a far different culture. And so there's nothing to compare and contrast against. So ideology is easy to, gain a lot of inertia when it's not fully tested by kinetic realities like being in the wrong neighborhood in St. Louis or Liari in Karachi, Pakistan is no easy stroll. And you have to have emotional intelligence and you have to be very sober. I was told multiple times during this shoot that people are scared to speak up. I find that so bizarre because we're in America. Okay, here's an example. I was flying from Moscow to Damascus, Syria back in 2007. Landed at the airport, got in a taxi, and the cabbie found out I was American, and right away, he went for it. He's like, "What do you think of George W. Bush?" If there are any W fans out there, I might offend you, but that's fine. I think I said something like FW, and I didn't like him, and all these things, right? And so the cabbie lit up like a Christmas tree, so excited. Like, wow, oh, that's so cool. And then I said, "What do you think of Bashar al-Assad?" And his smile just went downwards, and he got a bit tense, and his eyes got heavy, and he's like, he's a good president, Bashar al-Assad. And he was lying. And he was envious of me that I could speak my mind, that I could have an opinion like that and talk out against my leader, because they can't over there. And you realize speech controls thought, controls your emotions and everything. And nobody likes rude, obnoxious people yelling whatever at them. Like, nobody enjoys that. But the fact that in 2024, people in Vermont are scared to speak up because they're afraid to be, I was told, afraid to be canceled afraid to be called a racist or a homophobe. And I'm on the internet, so I've been through this years ago. You know, the first time you're called a racist, it's a big deal, because that's the worst thing you can call someone. Most people, right? And it hits you hard. And so many people, it's pretty unbelievable. It's like we're in 6th grade now with the bullies on the playground and their name calling. A way to shut people down is to call them racist, fascist, neo-Nazi. I've gotten that one. That's a fun one. Everything under the sun. But once it happens a few times, you realize these words are meaningless. It's like an exclamation point at the end of every sentence. People are so scared to speak up that they'll let terrible policy tank their city. So bizarre. Now, in the video with the link below, there are many people in Burlington that spoke up. I want to thank you all for that, those that did, because many more didn't want to talk. And so the only way things turn around is to have the conversations and say, you know what, enough's enough. I don't want to raise my kids in a place where it's okay for people to be using drugs on the streets and leaving their needles. And that should be an open conversation. Now in 2024 Vermont, a lot of the people that say this, you're called a racist for saying that. What's it have to do with race? It's like, I don't want crime and vagrants and problems in my city. So it's quite silly, and it's a bit sillier that people go along with this stuff, but I think things are starting to turn. And so people in Burlington need to stand up together and call out the BS when it's in front of them, which there is plenty. Okay, here's an interesting one for you. The presence of BLM is more in Burlington, as in flags and stickers, big banners on churches, than anywhere else I've seen in the country. Before I'm called a racist, because that's the easy go-to, a lot of good people supported BLM. Black Lives Matter, of course, like most people think that. It's not about that. It's about the organization that really leveraged goodwill and the goodness of people in somewhat of a nefarious way. And here's what I mean by that. Look into the 3 co-founders. Watch their interviews. See what their ideology is. Ask yourself, where did the money come from? A lot of individual donors to BLM, and I can respect that if someone believes in the cause. A lot of big donors. Check those ones out. And then more importantly, where did the money go? And it did not go to Black America. It did not go to any inner city place I've seen. And that's why BLM, for some reason, is way more popular in white Burlington, Vermont, than any Black neighborhood in the country that I've been to. And most of the people I've talked to in these neighborhoods, because I like to actually talk to them and listen to what they have to say, there'll be some supporters, but the vast majority are like, what'd they do for us? We saw none of that money. They leveraged our pain for their own grift. They bought their mansions and sailed off into the sunset. And so you're in 2024 Burlington, Vermont, under the city hall, and there's a BLM flag there. And you ask yourself, how is that even legal? At this point, it's a political movement. How is that legal to be on city property? And the fact that people haven't asked that question, maybe they have, but it's still there 4 years later, quite surprising. Underneath the flag on a bench is a sex offender. And then you're looking at drug deals over here, the bricks sort of chipping up, and then all of these businesses working in an extremely difficult business climate. Reason being is a lot of people don't want to go downtown to shop anymore. So they have to pay heavy leases, insurances, employees. It's not easy. And you're looking at City Hall, scratching your head saying, okay, these people in City Hall here make their salaries through tax revenue. So the people conducting business on the street are generating tax revenue. That tax revenue can pay for the city and even the pensions of these workers. And the social contract seems to be broken, as in you pay your taxes as a business, you get safety and security on your street. And they failed. And it's really mind-boggling to see that there seems to be a lack of connection of understanding how that works, how that relationship works. All the business owners I talk to are fed up with this stuff. Another point made in the video is destructive empathy. Okay, things that look really good on the surface but have second, third, fourth order consequences that do a lot of harm. Let me give you an example. I was in Brattleboro, a small city in the south of Vermont. There's a pedestrian bridge, there's a co-op, nice co-op, great co-op. And so if you're walking across the bridge, it's a narrow bridge, and at the end of the bridge, every time I went by it, there were at least 2 people on drugs asking for money. And from what I've seen across the country, these situations, usually someone owns that corner, as in the people begging for money aren't keeping the money. Usually they're giving it to their higher up, whoever's controlling that corner, and they're getting the free drugs and they're staying dependent. Now, that's not a great situation. What does the co-op do? They set up a water cooler because the people on drugs are thirsty, and that would be a nice humanitarian thing to do, right? Give them water. They're not doing so well out there. Second order effect. The handicapped mother that lives on the other side of the bridge, who sent their kid over the bridge for groceries traditionally, can't do it anymore. Because as a responsible parent, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't put your kid through that situation. So that family now has to deal with the problem. Third order effect. You're the young couple moving up from Massachusetts or New York or wherever because you want to get into the countryside. And you look at this situation, you say to yourself, why not go over the river, Keene, New Hampshire? From what I've seen, they don't allow this, and raise my family there. No state income tax, no sales tax, and no meth heads in front of the co-op or grocery store. And my kids can walk around in the park without needles. And so that's the third order effect. And then the fourth is, that young energy doesn't come in, that young family structure. The schools take a hit, the businesses downtown take a hit, they move out, and it's a doom loop. It takes on its own inertia. It's a downward spiral. I'm not saying this is happening to Brattleboro, but these are little things that should be corrected in their first stages so they don't turn into disaster situations down the road. So there's a lot of destructive empathy I see in Burlington, just allowing all of this to happen and not looking at the consequences that happen because of these, I think, somewhat easy actions. You can give someone water, you can give them a little money, you can feel good about yourself, but what does that lead to down the road for them and for the rest of society? And then, okay, so I'm at the store Homeport, and Mark, who owns Homeport, is in the other video. He's still up there. And great store. And out the back door, a couple stories up, you're looking down at the back side of the parking garage that I was talking about earlier, and they have a program called Food Not Cops. Food Not Cops. Couldn't be called Food and Cops, Food and Good Policing. No, Food Not Cops. Interesting name choice. And a lot of the people eating there are the criminals and the thieves taking things from the businesses on Church Street. So you have a nonprofit set up with hot meals for those that need them. Of course, many of them need them. Not everyone who's there is a criminal, but I was told the majority were.
This guy here with the little crossbody bag and the backwards hat, it was the purse snatcher.
Okay, so the purse snatcher snatches his purses, then comes in the back and gets a hot meal and goes back to work.
Yep.
And so you're looking at the situation, and someone can go steal from one of these stores, go get a nice lunch, take a break, and get back to stealing in the afternoon. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I said, why not, if people need meals, why would you put this at your main parking garage next to your main shopping district in the whole state? Like, what would be the point of that? What is the point of that? Meals, not cops. Let me know in the comments below. It's odd that you would do it there. It doesn't seem like it's benefiting the citizens of Burlington so much. In a way, Burlington feels like a restaurant where those parents have their 5-year-old running around, making a ton of noise, screaming, annoying everyone in the restaurant, and they're not doing a thing. That's what Burlington feels like right now. It's like we need some adults in the room, politicians that are actually there because they want to create policy that works for the people of the city versus, the number one thing being identity politics. One thing a lot of people reached out to me and told me was that out-of-state college students can vote for Burlington city government positions. So that is causing a bit of issue because it's such a big college town. And if something is well organized and you can hit that young population, that's a huge number. And so a lot of the locals told me, look, we're not voting for this stuff, but there's a massive student population. And students, not saying you're all voting for whomever, I'm just saying like that, the weight of that vote is somewhat changing the voting dynamic in the city. Policies equal tangible realities. So Burlingtonians, a lot of you are not for what's going on right now. Next time you vote, what are the policies of the people you're voting for? Like, what do they care about? And I'm not looking at empty words. Everyone can say security and safety, and they know that works because that's what people want. You might have to go in on hour-long podcasts. I did a fair amount of that. I always do that. I find them fascinating. You can really see where people are coming from, what their ideology is, how they view the world. And it's pretty easy when you get long form uncut to see what their stances are. So policies equal realities. That's it for now, guys. That's the beginning. Most of what was said in the removed part of the video. And from here, got the video down below. Click that link and you'll see the second part of this story. Lastly, Burlington, still beautiful, once was amazing, now is on its knees, has total capability to come around. It needs the right leadership and support of the community. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Until the next one.